This is a journey into sound, a journey which along the way will bring to you
In speed. In in speed. In speed. In in speed.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Thirsty Therapy. Billy and John here, bringing you our tasty cocktails. John, how are you?
I'm feeling really good. I leveled up.
You did level up. You're at a
I've got
level
an apron
2
now. I gave the number. I decided the numbers. I thought that was worthy of a level 2.
Absolutely. I think that as we go, we're just going to keep adding. We're just going to keep adding new flair and necessities to your apron as you need it. Like level 3 will be a solid sturdy pen, right? Or no, it'll be a Sharpie because then you can write on anything at any time. You can date all your bottles right away and your juices. I mean, this is a utility device as well as just handsomely sleek.
But in true video game fashion, like if I gain one level, only one pocket opens. I still can't use the others yet, right?
Right, absolutely not. I mean, we got to get there. Eventually, you're gonna be like, we'll be Super Saiyan, and we'll have to blow your hair up like super high. Level 98, it's like just ready to blow. Kinderliff, welcome back. Thank you so much, by the way. We have to, you brought up a perfect thing. We want to send out some shout outs to people, some of our fans who have contributed to our show. Kinderliff, you hooked us up with this fantastic Smitty table. What are we going to get on there? Here, we'll start with the Benedictine. Look at that class. We have a perfect area now to feature all of our cocktails and the bottles and the things that we're using. John,
can I get my reaction shot on this?
John's reaction shot.
Oh, spinny thing.
It's perfect.
Okay, I'm good. I'm good now.
So Kinderlift, thank you so much. I want to give a shout out to my late father-in-law for contributing his entire collection of ties to me, because I'm always needing new ways to bring out my personality. We got Nightmare Before Christmas tonight. And then lastly, I'm kind of giving away a secret, but I'm going to be I'll be a little shy about it, John. Uni Ebby, another one of our awesome fans out there, donated a sphere ice making kit to us. And so I have 2 spherical ice cubes in here to test out tonight, and I thought that would be super fun for everybody to see.
Dope.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
As John and I were teasing, we're trying to get up better quality every single time. We were going to start we jokingly said we'd start a donation page for a Mac Mini so we can make this, bring up the level of quality for everybody to see when we're doing these creations for you. But that's way to come, right, John? That's too far in advance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's see. Oh, gosh, so many things on my wish list. Yeah, let's just leave it there.
Right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Margarita Knows, welcome back. Luciv, hey. You guys are all amazing. And John and I, we appreciate it so much that not only can we hang out in a safe way and make drinks together, but we can bring everybody in, and everybody's bringing us into your lives and into your living rooms and your kitchens and your closets and all the other spaces that we're trying to use up as best we can in this COVID time. But John and I wanted to create a rad show for you tonight with some really spirit-forward cocktails and a great way to kiss off 2020 and welcome in 2021 as a way better year. John, add to that. I know you have something to add to that.
No, I don't know. I've heard that a lot about 2021 is going to be so different. Like it's just going to change overnight.
Right. True.
But there's so many glimmers of hope in the news lately. Sure. Yes. What if it did? This could be great. What if it did change overnight?
Wow.
Let's go for that.
What if it did? Yeah, and at least we're gonna try and shoot for the hope side of it, right? Even if like you and I are both the data gatherers so much and take the real things into account. It's nice to just, especially for Christmas. I'm already doing it with my kids, like enjoying the magic of Christmas. Like, yeah, okay, perfect. We'll add that magic to the rest of it. Maybe we'll wake up July 2021 and everything's back to normal. It'll be a great summer.
Sounds good to me.
Right? So let's talk about the cocktails that we want to do tonight. We're doing super yeah, Groundhound Day. Whoa. Kinderlift, that is, where do I even go with that? So everybody, what we're going to do tonight is we're doing 2 separate cocktails, as we usually do. And then we are doing them both with a vermouth blend that I put together. It's using a little bit of fancy vermouth and a little bit of cheap vermouth, but we'll get into that in a little while. We're going to start with our first cocktail that is alcohol forward. It has a lot of components, but it's delicious. And John, what do you like best about the Vucare?
Oh, sorry. In the lower right. Which are we leading with?
We're gonna do the Vucare, or you want to do the Manhattan first? Manhattan first. Let's do that.
I follow your lead. I was just reading from top to bottom.
Oh, good point. I forget that I don't see that part as much anymore. With our new setup, we got this great setup thanks to Uni Ebby, another great contribution.
Yeah.
We have these monitors that we get to use, so I can actually like see John in a full picture, which is awesome, and then see everybody's chats right underneath it, so I can actually follow along and talk back and interact with everybody, which has made it so much more fun and easy to do.
Well, okay, so actually let's talk about this order. Yeah, I feel for me personally, when I'm in the before times when I sat at a bar, I had a particular order that I would consume drinks in. I wouldn't. The first drink of the night would not necessarily be the last drink of the night. And given
Ever.
these two, which are Billy's having PTSD to all the drinks I ordered from him. God, this guy.
Not at all. It was so fun. But
Uh,
truer words could never be spoken about. Your first drink was never going to be the last drink because you were there to enjoy the different creations that we could come up with.
Oh, good. So these two are very similar. Classic cocktails, spirit forward. In my, I can go either way on this, but I would start Manhattan and then go Vieux because start with slightly boozy and then Vieux,
We'll
all
go
the
the
boozes.
We'll go with a 1-2 punch with Vieux. That's perfect.
But you have another logic that you would prefer to end on the Manhattan?
No, you know why it was in my mind, to be perfectly honest, is the idea that I always have with the cherry, sinking the cherry in the bottom of your Manhattan and not skewering it. Because the idea of the Manhattan, as I've read, was built around that cherry being your dessert at the end of this, not necessarily a meal, but at the end of this cocktail. That's a last sweet finish to the whole thing. And so in my mind, I think that's why I kind of flipped the order. Even though we talked about it the other way, I kind of flipped the order because I was still thinking of that as being like the dessert, and then everything else being the main course or the meal to the whole thing. But that's not to say that I actually agree with your logic, and we can start slow and do that 1-2 punch next.
Oh, okay. Thank you for explaining that. That's interesting because I wasn't thinking of the food portion of the drink. We have a functional garnish tonight.
We do, and it's funny. It's the only garnish we're actually using tonight. So we have spirit-forward cocktails and no juices, and we weren't even going to do. Technically, we didn't need the garnish, except for we definitely need that cherry.
I kind of like this new logic. I defer to your expertise. I would rather end with dessert.
Okay, let's do that then. It'll be a nice sweet finish. Now
I can tell you what I like about the Vieux. It is all the boozes.
Yeah. Right? And are you enjoying, do you like the spice blend that, well, I guess I should say, I love the fact that how strong it is with you and that it's all the boozes. There's something nerdy about how the spice blend of the Benedictine kind of pairs and amplifies the spice blend, the faint spice blend on most sweet vermouths.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
It's kind of that supercharger.
It's an intense drink. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely is. Nice and strong. We're going to use a lot of great product today. In fact, here, let's talk about some of the product that we're going to use. We're going to use, well, for me, I'm going to use Rittenhouse Rye for my rye. So as we go, we are a cognac, rye, sweet vermouth, Benedictine. We're going to use Peychaud's bitters along with, we're going to do Angostura bitters too, just to add just one more level to that. Margarita nose, yes, please. If not now, do like Brie and I did and order yourself a pizza to show up just as this is finishing. Because we realize that too. At the end of these shows, we have so much fun with everybody. And we know better by the time we're a couple drinks in. We're definitely needing to eat. Nobody wants to make food then. First Manhattan in the 1870s, thanks to the Oracle. Thank you for that one, Bree. All right, so I'm going to do Rittenhouse Rye. My cognac, I'm going to do Pierre Ferrand 1840. John, are we making this basically the exact same?
I have the exact same, yeah.
Perfect. And then we're going to do the Benedictine. So as I pour them, as we start to build, I'll put them on our turntable, and we can throw that up there for a little while, just for fun. And yeah, you ready to get started, John?
Let's do this.
Sweet. All right, so remember, everybody, that we talked about having no juices today. And remember that with no juices, there's no reason to shake this cocktail. With a spirit-forward cocktail, we want to softly chill it. So we have our fantastic Yarai here. This one's from Bull in China. My spoon is as well. They are an amazing local company. I wish I could afford to have all the things that I want from them. John, what are you working with tonight?
I don't recall the maker of this Uri glass. I keep refreshing Amazon because I want more, and it says unavailable, no longer available.
It's interesting because it has a bell bottom almost on it. Like
yeah, it's nice. Elan Collective. Elan Collective? E-L-A-N. Love this thing.
Is it crystal, or does it just look like that?
I believe it is crystal. Yes.
Ah.
Elan Collective Crystal Mixing Glass. If you can find it, it's a good one. Oh, and it came with this Elan Collective Hawthorne strainer, which I love. Just, you don't get many of that shape.
No. It seems like it'd be like no nonsense, fit on in there really, really easy. Tonight, that's interesting. Tonight, I am going to use a julep strainer for this particular one. But the Hawthorne strainer also works perfectly for these. All right, so Let's get started. We are going to start with our vermouth. And tonight we're using a vermouth blend. John and I are. A few of our friends out there are as well. This vermouth blend is one of my favorites for two reasons. One, it's a great hack. Because it's using some really cheap vermouth and some much more expensive vermouth. This is a Noli Prat blend, and along with Carpano Antica, and it's using 3/4 of an ounce of Noli Prat and 1/4 of an ounce of Carpano Antica. So as we're doing this, I need that little jigger. You mind grabbing that for me? My little smaller jigger. Should be on the drying rack. I am going to do a full ounce because we've already got it blended for you. And I'm going to start with that. And John, you remember why I always say start with the cheapest stuff first?
That's right. If you mess up cocktail, you haven't lost your most expensive ingredients, like the spirits. You can dump it and start over.
Do you see that, everybody? Everybody, you know why John's a level 2. That right there. He's leveling up as we speak. It's awesome. All right, well done. So yeah, that's exactly it. Especially if we're doing things with juices, always start with the juices, because if you mess up your order or your portions, then you just dump out the juice. So it's way less of a big deal and way cheaper on all of our pocketbooks if we're just dumping out juice and not booze. Or even our NA spirits that we're starting to use. Speaking of, John, I still forgot to give you a taste of that Monday non-alcoholic gin.
You found Monday? I
did find it, and I'm kind of geeked because I got the flavor profile and the bite of the whole thing too, and that's so far the best fitting non-alcoholic spirit, quote unquote spirit, that I've run across since we've been testing them. So I'm going to jump to.
Everybody should look forward to that. I think we want to do more, maybe even a whole episode on non-alcoholic drinks at some point.
Yeah, we absolutely do. It's kind of goes along with our motto, right, John? Like, you are worthy of good drinks. I don't want that to mean that you can't have a good drink and a great cocktail-like drink just because it doesn't have booze in it. You're worthy of having something more than just soda and water. Or a soda with bitters in it, or, juice and flavored soda water. So we're going to make you cocktails as best we can with every kind of conceivable product out there. Not only is it fun for us to research and helps our creativity, but it's even pushing us to start trying to create more of these products. Because I feel like it's a great thing for all of us to be able to enjoy the flavors that we want and not always have booze every single day. Right? That Monday gin
Nice.
label. Kindrel, if you couldn't, that it's amazing. And not only that, just the boxing and packaging to make sure that when they send it to you, it doesn't get broken in transit. It comes just as pretty, and I'm loving that Art Deco style. It really actually reminds me of the style that Uni Ebi helped us out with the design of our the Noble Bitters company. I'll throw it on there, but it's Art Deco. It's a little bit fun. It's amazing, and I love it. So I kind of got ahead of myself with talking about those things. Let's talk about the rye whiskey that we're going to do next. We're going to do another ounce of that. And so 1 full ounce of rye. And John, do you have any other rye, or is that your rye that you have right now?
Only Rittenhouse.
Okay. Now, I put 2 different ones up because I wanted to do Dickel for my Manhattan. Rittenhouse is fantastic for Manhattan as well. But I wanted the richness of the Rittenhouse to come through with the Vieux more than anything else, and the brightness and the spice of the brighter spice of the Dickel for the Manhattan for me tonight. Let's put these up there.
So you're using 2 different ryes. We're using the same. But one last thing on the vermouth. We did an ounce of vermouth. Use your special blend there, which gives you bang for your buck. But any sweet vermouth, 1 ounce will do for people following along at home.
Good call, John. Thank you for saying that. That's exactly right. And bang for your buck you're right about that. And that's why I love that vermouth. But there's one other thing about that vermouth. There's a reason that I blend the 2. And that is that Carpano Antica, just as VDT goes, John, we both love that. We both love those vermouths. In fact, I like drinking them by themselves. However, they can overpower the drink, and when you just want a little bit of that vanilla or a little bit of those extra notes that aren't found in like Noli Prat or Dolan, then adding just a little bit and making a blend of that vermouth actually gives you a different balance. So this is the same vermouth blend that I use for my Negronis when I make them for my regulars that like them a certain way. And that vermouth blend seems to carry it over, and they really enjoy it a lot more. It's just
cool.
That's what I like to do, make you happy, right? All right, so next up, we're going to do cognac.
Wait. There's one more question about the vermouth. What's in the kits?
Oh, that's right. Not labeled tonight. So
Go ahead.
Oh, please, John.
Well, so if I recall, there's 3 things in the kits. 1 is the vermouth. 1 is a whiskey cherry. And that will have a big cherry in it, right. And the others is bitters. So sorry about the labeling. That must be the vermouth that we've been talking about.
That's the vermouth we've been talking about. We went ahead, and I apologize for that. I went ahead and gave you 2 ounces of that, so that you not only have enough for the Vieux if you have all the rest of the components, but you also have enough for the Manhattan when we do that. So save that cherry. Keep that to the side for right now, and then you're only going to be using half of the vermouth that I gave you, the blend. Thank you so much, John, for seeing that. Uni Ebi, thank you for loving the turntable action. Thanks for coming back and joining us again. All right, so John, next up, got to reach up. We got to do the Pierre Ferrand 1840. Now, the first, I'd say the first 4 years of my career in bartending, I only dealt with Hennessy for the most part. If it was a name brand, if it wasn't a generic or a cheap brandy or cognac. But Pierre Ferrand, about 6 years ago, I stumbled upon. Somebody actually turned me onto it. And it was so delicious, and I actually really, really appreciate the flavor expression more so than Hennessy most of the time, at least for this cocktail. John, how about you? You already had this bottle.
Yeah, I like it. It seems to go really well with cocktails, mixing cocktails. If I want more flavor on its own, maybe I'd take Hennessy instead.
Right. That's true.
I'm not a big expert on cognacs though, so
Well, it's a
don't hate
great
me for
sipper. You're
liking
right.
Hennessy.
Right. No, I think it is. Well, it's a really well done product and it's really well received. Um, but it is. It's on the sweeter side. I don't, and I do. I like this one better in a lot of mixed drinks. But I have sipped on Hennessy on its own. It is nice and smooth. All right. Speaking of nice and smooth, what were you gonna say, sir? Tupac disagrees as always. Yes.
I was at the liquor store yesterday, and they didn't have Hennessy. I had to pass a Courvoisier. Buster Rhymes.
Well done, sir. Nice to sneak that one right in there.
I can.
All right. Smooth. Let's talk about Benedictine. It is a great little herbal liqueur. Been around since the Benedictine monks. It's theorized created it based on the spices that were around their monastery, which is very oddly similar to the Chartreusian monks as well. Which, thank goodness, I guess, for the solidarity that made them want booze around.
Distilled and mellowed in an extravagant palace. Say no more.
Right. It makes me want it. We're going to do, this isn't too much. A lot of recipes call for a bar spoon. We don't mind having that great flavor in the background. So we're going to go a full 1/4 ounce, which is essentially going to be the equivalent of 4-ish bar spoons.
I've had this bottle for 5 years. Shows you how little it's used in cocktails. We discovered that I realized it was this old that the graphic design has changed. Billy's
Right.
bottle looks completely different from mine.
I'll put mine back on the
Mine has
turntable.
Mine has a grayish white with a white top. Grayish label with a white top. This is a much darker bottle.
Isn't that funny? Here it comes around. It's coming around on the turntable as we speak.
I'll just,
Kinderlift,
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, turntable.
Jeremy 213, thank you so much. We're having so much fun here. John and I, just being able to hang out this way is awesome. So let's see, we got everything but the bitters, right, John?
Yes, let's bitter away.
Let's bitter away. We're going to do, so this one calls for Peychaud's and Angostura. Oh, I left that Peychaud's right over in front of the dehydrator. Thank you so much. John, did I tell you I'm dehydrating dragon fruit right now for garnishes?
Oh my goodness.
It's a preview. I know we're getting ahead of the game, but I like telling you about it.
How do people get these dragon fruit cocktails? Do they tune in 2 weeks from now, or?
Yeah. Well, everybody should check out our website, thirstytherapy.com. John has been hard at work making it look better and better every week. He adds more to it. And yeah, we have, we're trying to work out doing some kits and some subscriptions with all our friends that are local. For those of you that are out of town, we still haven't figured out how we can do things like that. We definitely can't ship obviously any alcohol or anything like that, but even keeping things shelf stable, because most of the things that we're making are fresh and seasonal. So yeah, we're working on that. But we have some friends in LA and Seattle that are helping us with some classes that we're doing. So they're helping us test out some of our new ways. Fingers crossed,
cool.
Everybody.
Wow.
Hopefully we can get this together and have everybody join us for these streams. It'd be amazing.
I wish I was in one of those classes.
Thanks, John. We have class schedules not class schedules. We have information on our website. Basically, just email me and we'll start talking about what kind of classes we can set up for either your friends and your family, like we do with some of our close friends, or even corporate events. We've been doing a lot of just team building events, holiday parties, and things like that for everybody. Dehydrated dragon fruit. That's right. We're trying to level it up again, Kinderlive. Pattern Principle, thank you so much for even checking us out. Yeah, it is gonna be really, really herby, and believe it or not, even with those bitters, it's gonna be more herby. We're gonna get a great stir down with the whole thing. And remember, we're just relying on those flavors. We're not doing any. We're not doing any garnish. We're not doing any fruit oils as far as coming off using a peel. So those add a considerable more amount of flavor. And this is going to ride just on these aromatics alone. And the ones that are already built into the fantastic Rittenhouse, the Benedictine, and the Pierre Ferrand. So, John, you have your beautiful dashers. I'm going old school. But so for yours, let's make sure that you triple up on your dashes when you get back. I'm glad it wasn't Skype that ate you. I'm glad it was just you were able to walk away for a second.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so from your full regular dasher bottle, the bottle that it comes in, how many dashes?
I'm going to do one of each one. You're going to do 3 of each one. Because John has those beautiful crystal, and I know you can get them on Amazon. Didn't you get those on Amazon?
Yeah. Yeah.
So everybody see the top of those dashers. They're beautiful and petite, but they are giving basically a third of what a large dasher is. And this might be a little bit heavy of a large dasher, the corked kind, but it's still pretty darn close. Especially if you're going to tip it over the way we are. And I kind of swing, kind of get it in my hands like this. And give it a straight up and down pop. Then you have a full boop. And John, he can give his a little bit different because he has the gravity and just it all going through that tiny, tiny hole. So I'm going to do again, right there. Always getting a little spills, huh? Never been the cleanest. All fixed. All right, now we just need ice. You ready? Anybody got any questions so far? You're right where you need to be.
Need ice.
Dasher, how long, Kinderlift, thank you. That's a great question. How long can a dasher store its goods? It has a lot to do with how much sunlight you are exposing that dasher to. You will start to, most likely you'll start to see, if you're using it enough, as we do in restaurants, you'll see a buildup of the dry, it's not minerality as much as it is the botanicals that are in that. You'll see them build up just a little bit on the outside as it dries and you refill it. That I feel like is going to be your bigger concern as long as you're keeping it out of direct sunlight. If not, no more than 4 or 5 months if it is in sunlight, because that's just eating away at it. I store all my bitters in a cool, dry, dark space. All right, so just make sure I don't have too much water in my ice because I pre-measured my ice, thank goodness. Nice, it saves us. Oh, and you know what, John? I totally forgot. I'm doubling up mine, so I'm gonna hurry up and rock another one right on top of this, and since I'm doubling up, it's gonna help my dilution rate anyway. Because I forgot, I'm making one for Bree and one for me from now on.
Okay, cool. Mine's
so
over ice, so I'm gonna get the stirring.
Perfect. Now, John, remind everybody how you're trying to do your stirring the best you can. We've talked, you and I know have talked about it before.
Oh shoot, was this on the level 2 test?
Yeah, it was. And he's doing it, everybody. Now you can even see it. It's perfect. So John's making sure that that spoon's going around the outside, not necessarily in the middle. And see how he's spinning his fingers and not really moving his elbow too much? That's going to be the...
locked in.
Right? That's all you need to do. It's awkward as hell at first, but it gets easier and works perfect. So again, since I'm doubling up, I needed a longer dilution rate. Otherwise, I'd be a little worried about my cocktail getting over-diluted right now. But look at that, we're there. Yeah. No, oh, Pacific Northwest Adventure. I don't think you're a monster for keeping bitters in the fridge. I think that I think that you probably are, it might not be as worth it or advantageous as you think, because you're opening and closing that fridge, so it's constantly changing the temperatures of it. It's also going light and dark a lot more often than probably would be in your cupboard. And remember that your vermouths are definitely needing to stay in the fridge. right? But your bitters should be high enough proof that it isn't going to oxidize and change in its consistency the same way. So not a monster at all, but you might be doing overkill and might actually be cutting the shelf life of it more than you need to. Kinderlift, thank you so much. Now I realize I don't want to over dilute my drink, so John, let's get to our straining right now. You're going to use yours. I'm using a Hawthorne, and again, or I'm using a julep. You're using a Hawthorne. The reason, again, I'm using a julep strainer is because we have no bits, no pieces of citrus that we need to get out. It's just pure booze. And John, we talked about this too before we started the show. What kind of garnish would we want or would we need? There's so many different theories or takes on it. Some people really want to do lemon. I'm drawn to lemon, but I think it's kind of unnecessary still with all the herbs that are going to be in this. I heard of some folks doing
on this particular cocktail.
On this particular cocktail, yeah, I heard of a cherry and an orange being, as I read up on different folks' takes on this cocktail. A cherry and an orange, like my least favorite contemporary old fashioned. But yet, here, this is for you. Loriander, welcome back. Joining us, it's so far away. That's awesome to see you again. Let's see, different types of heads. You're right. There are so many different variables. In fact, we even notice them through the different droppers that we have. So, John, let's talk about the bitters bottles that we have working tonight with the teeny tiny Szechuan peppercorn, or Szechuan peppercorn and walnut. And as opposed to, this one happens to be our Fresno and grapefruit. Now, both of these dashers, totally different sizes.
So drop it like this.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think Loriander is actually even referring to your dasher tips, but I think this is a perfect example of what we're working with. So you have a little bit bigger bottle. Some of our friends out there, they have some of the tinier sample bottles, right? And even with these tiny sample bottles, oddly enough, here, I'm going to put it down actually here on the bottle screen, if everybody can see it. And John, tell me how you think that looks, because I can't see my hand too well. Am I in a good spot?
Yes.
Cool. So this dropper, as opposed to John's dropper, the diameter of the glass is about 2/3 as the size of John's, and the tip is kind of a little bit different. Well, John's particular dropper has a large, because of course, you know me, everybody, I'm the nerd who wants to know as much as I can. So I tested the two different droppers on hard surfaces and on paper towel to see which one actually had a bigger dropper. And oddly enough, tinier dropper gave a bigger drop out of it than the larger one would. So that's the trick. I mean, even when it comes to a dasher tip that's the size of John's, like the one on the shelf behind him, as opposed to you and I could have one that looks almost exactly the same or exactly the same, but the diameter inside the actual hole might vary just slightly. The machinist just changed it up that day maybe, and that's already going to change it. So everybody's got to test these out before. You always have to know the equipment you're working with.
So back to the garnish. This drink is ready to go. We're all done.
We're done. We should have been drinking instead of talking.
Oh my gosh!
Cheers,
Cheers.
sir.
The Vucare.
The Vucare. When I get that smell, as soon as I put it up to my face. Almost forgot to put the Pierre Ferrand back on the display. Kinderlift, this is so money. You don't even know. Yeah, maybe. If that's the kind of Jay we're talking about. Yeah. Well, Pacific Northwest Adventures, yeah, we're gonna get there one way or another, huh? John, what do you think? Do you like it?
Oh, absolutely.
Salud. Now, anybody else? Let us know what you think. You don't have to chat in, but if anybody feels like it, tell us what you think of the cocktail. Tell us what you think of the vermouth blend. It shouldn't be too predominant because we have the Benedictine and the Rittenhouse in there and the bitters. You should get just a nice juicy vanilla note on the back. And then I get a nice little spice burn under my tongue for my finish. John, how about you?
Yeah. If you had just said all that, I would have assumed you were describing the Vieux Carré in general. But one thing I really like this vermouth blend. It lightens it up, makes the Vieux Carré a little bit more accessible versus Vieux Carrés I've had in the past that did not have your hack, your vermouth blend hack. I mean hack in the nicest.
I appreciate
way,
it. It's
of
a
course.
complete hack. But it's something that helps us get there on a budget, which I don't know any of us that aren't thinking about that. And it also really does help you. I'm a huge fan of the spirits that we get to use. As John and I nerd out about everything, I want to taste those spirits. I know what the vermouth tastes like, and I love tasting it on its own. I love having Bree and I have a glass of vermouth at night before we go to bed. I love that all by itself. But when I'm making these cocktails and I want to taste the spirits, I want the vermouth to complement it rather than overpower it. And that is just my take, John. I'm sure the person who created this cocktail intended to have it be even bolder and stronger maybe than this particular one.
Yeah, so for example, in my home, I've made the same drink before with my go-to sweet vermouth, Koki Vermouth di Torino. And I think that's where I earlier said in the show, so intense, so dark, so right before bed, and way to end the night. I like that your blend sort of backs off from that.
Thanks.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you.
Shout out
Loriander?
to Thirsty Therapy cocktail kits.
Right. Well, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring some fun stuff to everybody and make it as accessible as we can. You are worthy of good drinks. That's our thing. We're never going to stop that. Even our friends that are out there, like we've said, we're trying new spirits and new faux spirits all the time. And I'm trying to come up with as many cool ways to make good cocktails accessible to everybody. And they're not necessarily everybody's cocktails, and that's okay. I like taking a little bit of creative expression and making things a little different, and hopefully that's just fun enough to nudge everybody out of their comfort zone a little bit. Like the Szechuan peppercorn that's coming, basically, John. I think that's what I'm thinking about more than anything. Oh, Loriander, I missed that. Big we started blowing up with the chat. But I think it was something about a vermouth blend. Sorry. Oh yeah, cherry. So Fee Brothers Cherry Bitters. Thanks, Bree. Fee Brothers Cherry Bitters. I have had that one. Fee Brothers, I get very overpowered by the glycerin base and the intensity of the flavoring sometimes. But however, in certain things, I really need it and appreciate it. It's all about how we get to the cocktail and the idea that's stuck in the back of my head for it to finish with, or the idea in the back of my head that's a complete cocktail. So I'm always going for a finish, and if something doesn't fit right, and unfortunately, a lot of times I've done Fee Brothers as opposed to something else, an alcohol base, obviously, I tend to favor. Mainly because the sweetness is lost and you have a little bit more purity of flavor with that. Also, the bittering agents are steeped within the botanicals, so while they might be a little more cloudy, I like the flavor you get from whole product as opposed to essential oils most of the time. There's always an exception for me, right, John? I'm always leaving the door open because things like frankincense, I've had a chance to work with frankincense essential oil and I love it, but not always frankincense tears. I've had a harder time getting to express their flavor out. Oh my gosh, the Calm meditation app. Could you fall asleep to my voice? I think you died. Sorry, Loriander.
Fall asleep to these bottles.
Oh my God, that's what it is. It is. It's the bottles. Well, I'm glad you like it. Again, shout out to Kinderlift for making that happen for us. The beauty that is. One thing you do have to worry about is we always have somebody coming in to try and mess things up around here, right, John? They're usually just a little. They're usually just a little problem. Bowser, damn it! Always back messing things up. Well, he's chasing booze. Earlier, he was chasing smoky scotch, and we didn't realize why he needed that. With what surely was a smoky breath. Bowser is thirsty. Oh, I'm Alex. That's right. They are in I believe it is Denmark. All right, so I'm happy that I get to have this full drink this time, John. Normally my 2 sips go by quick.
This could go one of a couple ways.
Right. Yeah, it could.
Hey, I got a question. I'm originally from the Pacific Northwest, but I lived in Southern California for a while, and I could often appreciate a bartender by buying them a shot and drinking with them. They'd usually sip it. It was not like college shots, it's just, a little sip of Fernet here or there, something like that.
Right.
But here in Oregon bars, in the before times,
right,
bartenders refuse. They say, I can't drink on the job. What's the deal? Right.
It is because we have a state-run liquor control called the OLCC here that has so much control that they can actually arrest you. They themselves arrest college students, I know, in the college towns and things like that. They can cite us for it. There is a very strict rule about not consuming any alcohol here in Oregon if you are on the job. I'm torn because I will tell you this, as trying my best to be a responsible provider of spirits. You have to be responsible with it, right? So the idea behind it, John, is that if you are drunk yourself, you can't assess others' drunk level and not continue to provide spirits for them at an unhealthy and even dangerous level. And more so dangerous to the rest of society, even less so to that person. That person is just as important, but let's be honest, we all know there are much more dangers that we end up as bartenders being responsible for. And that is, there are mixed feelings about that because it's something that people feel like we shouldn't be the ultimate responsible, the last tried and true reason for people to be responsible, I guess, or the last bastion of that. But humans have proven that they can't control that particular part themselves, especially when they are inebriated. So they need us to be the sober bastions of good drinking etiquette, I guess, essentially. However, it does suck when once in a while somebody wants to buy you a Fernet or just pay it forward in a way. One of my favorite things was a place called Oven and Shaker. A couple other bars here, right, John, that you've been to in restaurants where you can buy a 6-pack for the back of the house, for the kitchen, who deserve it more than anybody. But those of us in production are no better, but working 10 times harder because we're trying to create for you more than anything else, and make something with our hands that is destroyed within minutes, but we love the reactions that everybody gets from it. So that being said, yeah, I kind of got off point. Sorry, John, but it's a responsible thing that I will take with it, but also I don't want a bunch of bartenders out there totally wasted and sending dangerous folks out into the streets left and right.
Yeah, I guess those are good reasons. Thank you for explaining that.
You got it. I'm torn.
glad-
I'm 100% torn by it, though. I won't lie. I really am.
I guess I'm just remarking on it because I don't get to have full drinks with you like this when I'm at your bar.
Right. It is
So
something
I'm
that
grateful
like
for this moment.
you and me both. And hey, if we keep going in the direction we're going, maybe we can figure out a way to be able to do that with folks and not have it be like that. Be able to share samples with everybody eventually, and everybody be able to taste things together and experience it together. I think that you get limited by trying to be a bar sometimes here. Fee Brothers has a low alcohol percentage in their bitters. I love that you have Scrappy's. Bitterman's as well. Can we give a shout out to Bitterman's, John? Bitterman's is a local company. Adrian and Janet are the owners of that. They are really, really cool folks. They used to come into a Furi place I used to make drinks for John as well. An amazing Japanese ramen restaurant here in town, and all over the world, in fact, but also here in town. They are, the Bitter Truth. That's a great one. And again, so Scrappy's, I want to hit on Scrappy's for a second. Bitterman's, I love their flavor combinations. Scrappy's is one of my best examples in my mind so far to single flavored bitters that are just like straight to the point. When I'm using a cardamom bitters, a lot of times I go for theirs because it's a straight bright cardamom bitters with no extra spices or overpowering bittering agents. Write my resume next, Tart Tarts. You know how much help I need writing my own resume from my amazingly brilliant wife. It's only in this medium that we're making these words sound so good. I have to be 1,000% honest. I like the Botanist. I really hope that they get a chance to do cocktails to go. It was a place that John and I actually talked about this in I think January of 2020. It was a place I wanted to work. I love everything that they're doing. Their creativity. I feel like it's the same type of exceptional nerds as I am and John's striving to be, built into a place that really wants to be creative and classy. I really like what they're doing, and I hope they get cocktails to go because I want them to make it. I get the reasons why they haven't wanted cocktails to go, but I want cocktails to go for no other reason than I want these places to be there for all of us when this is over with. And there's almost no chance in hell anybody can make it without it, especially if they were a predominantly cocktail focused place like the Botanist, like Expatriate, like oh man, help me out, John, help me out. Who's another Hey Love, another exceptional place that was creating cocktails first, even more than Eames, or Eames a great one, even more cocktails that relied on cocktails more than food.
Right.
Can you think of anybody else? I'm leaving somebody out, aren't I, John? I'm leaving probably 300 people out.
Cocktail oriented places like Teardrop.
Teardrop? Oh my gosh. Didn't even think of Teardrop. Have they even tried to reopen?
I don't know anything about them. Oh my gosh, So much history there. So many cocktails with the originals over the years.
Here. Let's see. Trick Dog, no. So I know of Trick Dog. I follow Trick Dog. They follow me? What?
They must have followed you back.
Rad, thank you, Trick Dog, for following me back. I think they're amazing.
Shout out to Trick Dog.
I'm flattered. I'm gavelling right now. This is amazing.
That place has been on my list for a long time. I haven't been.
Yeah, so perfect example. They are down to selling hot dogs because they are an incredible, innovative cocktail program that has taken my craft to the whole next level, and they're succumb to selling hot dogs to try and keep their business going. So like everyone's trying to do their best, and fine, let's do cocktails to go. I mean, I know Trick Dog has that option in San Francisco, but let's do that here. Let's do whatever we can to try and help these places that we say we're so appreciative of, when it brings so many people to our city, but it's really hard. We haven't really shown it when it comes to I feel like we're a nation of mom and pops supposedly, but the mom and pops never get swept under the rug, and I don't know how many more corporate bailouts big companies need, but that'll be the end of what I'm talking about. That'll be the end of that before I get too deep.
Cool it, Billy.
I know, right?
Hold it back. Hold it in.
But yeah, so please, cocktails to go, all those good things. Yeah, COVID does suck. I mean, Alex, yeah, we gotta, and you know what? We're gonna get through it, and at least we can connect. And John and I, we always talk about the same thing, right, John? Like, we're here to connect with each other as humans. I don't know how to be any more political. It's the one thing I've tried to like stay only partially in when it comes to my job, because more than anything, I want to bring people together, and I really don't. I care about your politics a little bit, but like I feel like we're getting so much more caught up in that than we are like the fact that we're all still going for the same basic things, and we just try and brand each other as if we're not. That's the truth of it. John, what's the one thing I constantly, like a nerd, I'm always saying, like, I feel like we're supposed to connect as humans, and it's like it makes me feel so good to be able to help people facilitate that and grease the wheels into making them, bringing people together.
So you do need to bring people together on this issue then. I shouldn't shut you up. It's just bad emotions.
No, it's not. I just think that there is, like, when it comes to everything that we're talking about, there's a place that we can go when it's political, and there's a place that we can go that's just like right or wrong, and doesn't actually have anything to do with politics, and more has everything to do with how we look at ourselves with everyday America. And I think is the biggest part. If we start thinking about how we take care of each other instead of how we just take care of ourselves, things change in just a little bit different way, and we can actually like make a small difference to the people that we can touch and reach out to. And if we can start doing that, then maybe the rest of the shit won't matter. I still feel like the government needs to reach in and help, because they're willing to do that for so many thousands of other corporations that make money. But more than anything, if we can't do it for ourselves, then we're just going to be stuck waiting on them to do it for us.
Nice.
You guys are awesome. Thank you all for wanting to even hear it. Yeah, that's really what it is. If we can bring everybody together and make it, shit, I wouldn't care. I love having people meet us here, John, and I want people to continue to meet us here. I wouldn't care if you brought cocktails from the botanist that you got to go. John and I could be making something totally different, and you bring in one of their creations, and John and I can still teach you something cool, and you get to hang out with us and chat. But if that meant that you could support somebody locally, I'm all in it for like our community, not just competition. Because we all have something cool and different that we're trying to provide. Just like me with my nerdy bitters, like I'm trying to, and liqueurs and syrups. I'm no different or better than anybody else, but I'm trying to make just a little tweak to it, my own little interpretation of things, and hoping that everybody likes it. I guess I got you, huh, John?
I'm hooked.
And we keep having fun every week. It's pretty fucking awesome. I'm cavelling still. Drinking Chardonnay. Oh my God, I love it. I'm an Alex. Perfect. Now, I do have to ask, because as a former bar manager, I like analyzing things. Is it a oaky Chardonnay, or is it have a little bit more minerality on the back end? Like some of the oaky ones have like this nice oaky butteriness finish to them. What do you got for us? You got to tell us now. Maybe we put the pressure on, John. Herbal liqueur from Spain. Yeah, tell us about that. Steel age. Okay, so minerality was what I thought. Please, John.
That's awesome. That's awesome. P&W, you're able to follow along. I'm very excited for our next cocktail because it's a little more accessible. I was wondering what people were doing with the Vieux Carré, which has more exotic ingredients.
Yeah, and way to go. I mean, an herbal liqueur from Spain usually seems like it has a nice spice blend on the back end. And I would guess that the sugar levels and the richness are complementary to that as well. This was the first cocktail, Loriander. Yes, this was the first cocktail. We're slowing it down a little bit because we wanted to make sure last week that we had a good 45 minutes of time for all of our challenges that we had with Thanksgiving leftovers that folks had asked us for a couple weeks prior. This week, we were taking a little bit more time to actually spend some time with each other and talk to all of you and kind of take the time with our cocktails. But we're still on our first one. Next one up is going to be that Manhattan. And in fact, I think it's about a great time. John, are you ready to get started?
Yeah, I think we should absolutely do it. Yeah, who knows? Maybe it'll leave time. It'll leave time for some surprises at the end. We'll see.
You never know.
See what people throw at us. See if the trolls come out.
Loriander, I love you for all of your questions, by the way. I do have to tell you that. I am not fully credited sommelier. I have been an amateur for too many years, as well as an amateur sake somm. But I have a over analytical palate that Psalms tend to appreciate, but no, the schooling portion of it I have not done. What? I love that you guys are already like talking about what you're using. That's fantastic, especially because we have some references all around the world that you guys can connect, and we can actually talk about the products that we're using. Thank you again, Loriander, for joining us. Pacific Northwest Adventurer, thank you. It's awesome having all our new guests. It's awesome having all of our regulars. And yeah, with that said, let's start again. John, you ready? This one's not going to be as complicated.
Manhattan. One of the most iconic, famous cocktails. Let's do it.
All right. So, John, tell me your Manhattan story. Because I got a couple too.
My Manhattan. Oh, because everybody has a Manhattan story?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that you and I talked about some of our like Manhattan stories. If you can give it, don't you have a Manhattan story?
I have a couple. Well, so first of all, it was my dad's favorite cocktail.
That's what
sort of remarkable for him to have a favorite cocktail because he's from Germany. He's not from America, and cocktails are, in his time largely an American thing. But he acclimated, adapted to culture, and said, "Oh, it's Manhattan. This is great." He used it with, we're using rye tonight, but he did Maker's Mark, and then threw in a little extra cherry juice from the maraschino cherry jar. You know, those bright red, the cheap jar of cherries that you can get.
Yeah.
But
I had
he
them
just
last
loved
night.
it.
I had them last night. My mother-in-law, I made her Manhattan last night for my wife, my mother-in-law, and I. And that's all she had. And we used that bitters that you shared with me. Do you remember?
That's my other story, but we can save that for later.
Oh, no, please. It's perfect for
No. We'll get this one going, and we can talk about it while we're sipping this one.
Okay. Well,
I'll
John
just end by saying, my dad being so into that cocktail, it's a sort of formative cocktail for me. I always think of it.
That's awesome. This is the first cocktail, very similarly, John. I always think of it. This is the first cocktail I ever stirred for my grandfather. 7, maybe 8 years old. My grandfather had a wet bar. He had a full bar before I was born, in Wisconsin, and he never lost his passion for bartending, and it was always fascinating to me. All the bright, shiny bottles and the alchemy that I would watch him create. As a little kid, I teasingly remember thinking it reminded me of like a sorcerer putting his like stuff into a big, like a big cauldron, because he kept just pouring things into there. And as a kid, you'd have no idea what's really going on. And I think it seemed like 40 ingredients, and it was only 4. But he always said, it's happy hour somewhere, whether or not it was happy hour where he was or not. So Frank got me started on this, and I'll never forget it, because of that. So let's get started. Let's start with the first thing that we always start with, which is the cheapest product that we got, and that's going to be that vermouth blend we talked about. And
vermouth blend returns.
Dun dun dun. John, I'm so glad you liked it for the Bucarest. I intended it for this Manhattan more than anything else, and I, again, too, with you, really appreciate how it worked out in that Bucarest. So with this Manhattan, we're going to do a full ounce, it's going to be a 2-to-1 cocktail, as most Manhattans are. We're going to do a full ounce of the vermouth blend, which again is going to equate to 3/4 of an ounce of Noli Prat and 1/4 of an ounce of Carpano Antica. And actually, you know what? That needs to go on there, even though it doesn't look like much. And then we're going to do 2 full ounces of our rye. And John, you're going to use...
I only got Rittenhouse for rye, so I'll stick with that.
Rittenhouse. And I'm going to go Dickel. Dickel's just a little bit bright. Believe it or not, Dickel is a little cheaper and a little bit easier to get your hands on, which is partly why I like it. If I had Pikesville and I wanted to, and had $54 a bottle to spend on Pikesville, it is an exceptional rye as well that I like. They're not too far off with their spice blend though. So I think you're still getting a good value with this. And 2 full ounces.
Now, if rye is a bit of an obscure cocktail, are other whiskeys a okay substitute?
Yes. Other whiskeys are okay to substitute. So 2 reasons. I've had a lot of luck with rye. For me, I've had a lot of luck with rye and walnut, and those spice blends going really well together. And letting that spicy sharpness of rye, because it's still 51% corn, like most of our products, but the rest is going to be all rye as opposed to any other spirit. It was a lot cheaper of a thing, and people didn't appreciate the heat of it prior to this. But I, again, like overanalyzing these flavors. So if I want the heat to come through, that's why I go to it. As opposed to Maker's Mark, which, John, you're right, your dad, that would make a great, sweet, rich Manhattan for this. For some reason, I like that spice and that bright bite to get me. I think it marries well not only with the vermouth blend that we're doing, but it also is going to marry well with a couple other things that we're adding to this cocktail. One of them being the bitters, and then we have a little surprise for everybody that's out there joining us. Some of you have kits, some of you don't, but we're going to tell you about what we're doing. And it's kind of a take from what John's dad does. Ooh, I would still use Rittenhouse Margarita Nose. I feel like Elijah Craig has a different, the bourbony sweetness that you're going to get off that. If you have Rittenhouse, go ahead and stick with John. Go ahead and use that one for that. Maker's Mark, Pattern Principle will work great for this as well. And again, remember, we're talking my over-analytical palate where I'm like over-analyzing all these flavors. If you haven't had as many Manhattans as I have, your liver thanks you. But also, the Maker's Mark is way, way better and a better starting point for you to be at. Whereas like me, again, we're talking about, I'm like, oh, I don't taste enough booze in that one or spice level in that one. I want to amp it up with something like this. And now let's start talking about spice. John, you remember what I said when you picked up all your stuff? Do you remember what I said about our cherries in particular when you picked up all your stuff?
Yeah, you said don't throw any of this away. Keep everything, the juice at all costs. And I was like, what? What are you talking about?
Right. So I'm kind of like your dad. I'm a nerd for all these flavors that we have. And I'm a nerd for not letting any products go to waste at all. And it is, you're right, Pattern Principle. It's a little bit more subtle, but again, it's going to be smooth and delicious no matter what. So with these cherries that we're going to use in just a little bit, we're going to add some of the whiskey that they were steeped in into this cocktail. If anybody got a kit from me,
I gotta check this out.
What? Maraschino cherries at OSU? Holy mackerel. The entire pharmaceutical department is going, Department of Pharmacy, School of Pharmacy is going nuts right now. If I could only get the name right, it would have been that much better. But John, we're going to use some of those flavors along with our bitters to add another level of spice in there. So again, yours is going to be a little more rich with your Rittenhouse. So anybody else that follow along with Rittenhouse, that's where we're going to be at. So we'll get to that in just a second. Let's first get to the Szechuan walnut bitters. And I had a little bit prettier sample bottle here earlier. I'll throw that on there with the... throw that on there.
Yeah. Now, if I look in my cocktail book from, was it 1870, and it mentions the Manhattan, it doesn't say this kind of bitters. What's going on there?
It's gonna say, let's see. Well, first off, it's also not gonna say ounces if it's from 1870. It's gonna say everything was portioned in glasses of wine at that time, which wine glasses were a lot smaller. I'd say smaller than this, which is about a third of the size of our modern wine glasses. I'll throw it up there just for fun, because hell, everything's better when it's spinning. So they measured everything per wine glass. Bitters, we're kind of going to think about this as a Manhattan, kind of like they did with old fashions at the time. It was like an old fashioned or a cocktail, quote unquote, is going to be bitters, spirit, and water, usually a little bit of sugar and water. So essentially the Manhattan, we still need some sort of bitters. It would have probably been Broker's bitters. Actually, no, I don't even know if that was around then. Broker's was probably the last one to survive. Danish.
And then more recently, Angostura bitters. It probably comes up in a lot of books.
Right. You're totally right.
Right.
And so Angostura, we're actually going to use a little bit today.
Okay. But what I'm getting at is, where do these Szechuan peppercorns come from? When did that get written down?
That's a nerdy thing of mine. Again, so the Szechuan peppercorns happen to be one of my favorite mouth and spice blends that I can add. Again, I'm trying to reach everybody with new sensations. So you get a really cool flavor, which is a very light citrus and a very light, almost white peppercorn. But the coolest part is it's almost numbing and a round spice blend that is really, really unique with Szechuan peppercorns. So that kind of got me hooked on that, and I thought perfect way to add perfect way to add a different texture and mouthfeel to this Manhattan. And we're going to accentuate the spices that we talked about, John. And rather than using all Angostura, which for a standard Manhattan is going to be 3 dashes of Angostura, John would do 6 to 8 with his small dashes. But we're going to do 1 dash, and we're going to do that because we want the weight of Angostura and we want the cinnamon background. But we only need a little bit of it. Again, so John's going to do a couple, and I'm going to try and do mine just to the side really lightly so that I don't even get a full plunge of it. Oop. And then if you tell, that's my favorite part. As you start to practice, especially holding it this way, you can tell, as I could the first time, that, oh, I only got a half. Well, it was probably about a third. So I needed another third. I stay at the same angle and just try and go at it again without tipping it straight up and down, because then all of a sudden you're going to have gravity hit in a different angle. All right, so we got 1 dash of that, and that's all we're going to need. That any more is going to be overpowering. It's going to be almost viscous. Mojitos do sound nice in January. We're still going to be a little bit cold here in the Pacific Northwest. So an Irish coffee.
Mojitos are an anytime drink.
Right? We'll work on that in a little bit. Yeah, I do. But for John and I, mint is hard to source for us locally during the winter time. That's our only trick. But who knows? Maybe we can find something if we start looking now. John, you got your dropper ready? Let's start putting in a little bit of the Szechuan bitters. But before we do, let's talk about that flavor. So anybody who has any of this bitters with us, I want you to do a fun, nerdy experiment with me. And this is the same way I want you to try any bitters no matter where you go. If you go to a place called The Meadow here in Portland and New York, you're going to try it the same way no matter who has bitters for you to sample. I'm going to teach you a nerdy
The Meadow
trick.
is great.
The Meadow is fantastic. So they, Aria carries a bunch of, Aria Gin also with Bull Run, or Bull in China, they actually carry a bunch of bitters as well, John. And I'm not sure if they let you sample them because I haven't been in their new location. However, here's what we're going to do. We're going to drop it right here on our hand, and I'm going to have Bree zoom in on the turntable here and see if we can get my hand, and see how I have that weird little drop right there, John? I can even put 2 on there, but I only want 1 or 2 drops, right, to suspend. And the reason I'm putting them there on my hand rather than dropping them directly into my mouth is I'm not going to hit any of the parts that my tongue needs to taste this if I drop it in the back of my throat or in the middle of my tongue. So I want to give a weird, big lick, tiger lick, we'll call it a lion lick. And you're literally spreading everything out over your palate, which is weird. If I were at any of my other bars, I'd run to the sink right now and wash my hands. But I'm not, so we're good. I'm only drinking my own drinks. Well, and yours. But did you get a good taste, John?
Yeah.
That's hitting all 7 categories of your tongue. If you're dropping it on it, you're hitting the 1 category, and that doesn't do you any good as far as tasting the flavors. What do you think?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Got that alcoholic bite to it. It's spicy.
Is your tongue getting a little numb right in the middle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Numbing.
Yeah.
That was my next word.
Sorry, I cut you off. I didn't mean to get too excited. Meadow is Mark Bitterman. You're right. Oddly enough, though, not Bitterman from Bitterman's Bitters. As I said before, that's Adrian and Janet here in town as well. So John and I are really, really lucky. We have so many fantastic folks to source locally from. Portland Bitter Company, we like using their product. I remember telling the owner straight to, like, when I first met her, that I couldn't, as much as I love making bitters, I can't touch this bitter cacao that she makes. And that's the nerdy part of my challenge, is like, I'm always like, well, what can I make? I love supporting everybody, but could I make it or create something similar to it? I can't touch anything like that. I love that. Bitterman's Hellfire Bitters, they got me on that one. I love it. They were kind enough, Janet, the co-owner of Bitterman's, kind enough to let me know that she loved my walnut bitters, and that wasn't any product that they had created before or could, or had attempted to or wanted to attempt to. So it's fun that we all have our own niches and can provide cool things for everybody that we meet. All right, so John, let's do 5 full drops with the dropper that you have. Everybody else out there, yours are about the same, just a little bit bigger. Like I said, you could dial yours back a little bit if you have one of the sample bottles that we have. But 5 full drops, at least for John and I really appreciate this one, so I'm going to go a little bit heavier, and I'm going to go 10. But again, there's my palate. I don't shy away from the big, bold flavors. That's okay. I love that you just did it too, because I know that you liked it so much that you just wanted to put it in 10. Thanks, John. I'm glad we brought that back in. Thank you. Well, it's fun for me to like try and create them. It's even more fun for me to like share them with everybody. And not only are you coming up with new things that I didn't even think of, but you're taking the things that I might have had in mind with it to a whole different level. And that is, yeah, that to me is like the ultimate compliment. Cardamom bitters, use them, love them. Cardamom was my first favorite bitters ever. I have several different things that I really appreciate the flavor with. But I will say this, when I first didn't know how to, Thai food is where I started with cardamom. However, to explore that flavor more, the next thing that I jumped into happened to be Scandinavian, the Swedish, Northern European food, because that tends to rely on those flavors. So cardamom goes really, really well with not only Southeast Asian flavors, but also northern, super far northern Scandinavian European flavors as well. So I'd say dills, bright flavors like that, that you can get from rye whiskey, like we're talking about. And then what's one more that cardamom that wow, let's see how many cocktails I have with cardamom in them now that I think. I have had a white soy martini with just a half dash of cardamom in it, and a little bit of white soy sauce and some other fantastic flavors, like Macrooch, lime. Oh, hey, John, nobody can... Oh, okay.
Okay. But Billy, you can hear me.
Perfect. I can hear you fantastically. It's awesome. It's
So
like
no one
you're
else
right
can?
next to me. Oh, we're back on. Perfect, John.
Okay. Cool.
Whatever it did.
I didn't do
well
anything.
done. You're right. A ton of root fruits in your dishes. And thank you for saying that, Loriander. That was fantastic. You literally kickstarted my brain. So something I've really had fun with, Pacific Northwest Adventure, and I think you should try it. If you have a juicer, go out and get yourself some parsnips. Not kidding about this. I have a cocktail that I've been working on for a few years now. I actually have it pretty dialed in. it needs a special bar to go in. But I've juiced parsnips, and they have a fantastic aromaticness to them. You're going to have to treat them very similarly to ginger, where you will juice them, let them sit, and all the starches will run to the bottom for sediment. You're going to let those stay there and gently pour off the liquid off the top, because you don't need most of those starches for viscosity, and they tend to make the drink look not as pretty in the end and stick to the glass. But if you were to grab, I'd say a little bit of parsnip juice, honey or maple, a little bit of rich whiskey like the Rittenhouse John and I were playing with, and some of that cardamom bitters, you might have a great experiment on your hands. And you'll have to get back to John and I and tell us how it turns out. Yeah. All right. So, John, what do you think? We're pretty much there. It would almost be time for our garnish, where we're going to switch things up a little bit, right?
I'm getting thirsty, so let's tell me what's
Let's get the show on the road. Let's what we're going to do is we're going to grab our spoon, and we're going to grab out a whiskey cherry, and we're going to get it in our glass. And I actually mixed up my glasses, the Manhattan and the Vieux glass. In fact, I wanted to put my Vieux on the rocks, but I forgot. So we're going my grandpa style and putting this Manhattan on those big rocks that I told you about from Ami Ebi. At least I am, John. If you have another coupe or a Nick and Nora,
I'll stick with Nick and Nora.
Yeah, stick with Nick and Nora. You're perfect, because I'm only adapting because you know me.
Okay,
all right,
so we're lifting a cherry into that.
Well, we are. We're going to lift a cherry right into the glass right now. And if anybody has a skewer and you are really, really adamant about using that, I hooked you up because I want you to be happy, and you're worthy of the drink that you want. But I encourage everybody, if they aren't used to it, drop that cherry right in the middle of your glass, and actually grab it out, especially if I already portioned it out for you. Grab it out of your glass and drop it right in. John and I, we're going to scoop them out of our jars, and then we're not only going to drop our cherries in, but we're going to grab another bar spoon full of all that juice that's left over.
1 bar spoon.
Oh, look at me. See? I'm actually catching myself now. And I'm going to tip my jar just a little bit to the side so I actually get 1 full bar spoon. Since I got a half the first time, I'll do another half now. So, let's see. I've worked for a cool guy named Dave Chanot. He called this cherry bounce. It's usually not cherry cordial, because cherry cordial is a sugar base and doesn't have any alcohol in it. This is cherry whiskey to me. And it just happens to be spiced. So the cherries that you have, John, and anybody else who's joining us locally, they're cherries that were put away, let's see, at the beginning of the season this year, so 6 months ago, into some whiskey, some orange, some no clove, let's see, star anise, and lemon, and cinnamon. 6 months later, we have not only a great flavored liqueur to keep them preserved in, but also the tasty cherries to finish. That's going to be our dessert, right? And I need to hurry up because I forgot. I'm doubling up for a brie here. Can't let our operator go dry.
All right, so my Nick and Nora ends up with that bounce at the bottom.
Perfect. You know what, John? Actually, grab your bounce. Can you hold your cherry to the side? Let's put our bounce right into our Yarai.
Oh.
And let's incorporate it.
My mistake.
Just for fun.
All right.
No, it was completely on me for not being as clear as I should have about it. Because then that way we can get a full in. And so here's what it made me think of your dad more than anything on this. If I were at any of the bars that I'd normally work at, regardless, usually a lot of them don't have whiskey cherries. Again, Dave Chanot for Raven and Rose, he always created his own whiskey cherries and had them waiting in the basement for at least a year before they got to use them. So really cool program. any other place that had Amarena cherries. Toshi cherries are a brand of Amarena cherries that I always liked using, being at Japanese restaurants. Really good quality, and not overly sugary as far as the syrup goes. But with those, anytime I would grab out, and John, I remember we talked about this earlier, anytime I would grab out a cherry, I'd make sure that I drop the cherry into the bottom of the cocktail glass, but then use that same just coated cherry or coated spoon to stir up my cocktail.
Okay.
So then that way,
it.
just like your dad, we're incorporating, because it's supposed to be a cocktail with a little bit of cherry, right? It's not just at the bottom. So we're going to incorporate a little bit right into the cocktail. Ready? Let's get some ice on this thing.
Let's do it.
And again, everybody, I'm using a lot of ice because I'm doubling up. And now if everybody can see me, I'm going to go really, really slowly. Again, just like John was showing you before. And this is, oh, look at, I still do my habit. And people always tease that this is how we start off. We throw our hand behind our back as we start doing our stirs to keep us from using both hands. You can put your hand up there. It's just an old habit for me that I've never gotten over. Older bartenders have always teased me about it. John, which is funny because I thought I was such an older bartender. No, so the only tarts, that's a great question. Does doubling up the cocktail require any other changes besides the ice? It does a little bit. The other part is you're going to stir it for about double the amount of time because you still need the dilution rate. We're going for the perfect dilution here. John, in fact, you're done, and I'm going to keep going. You should be right where you need to be. And I'm going to just go for another minute because I had some like partially melted ice that I poured most of my water off of. I agree with I'm Alex, John. Great finger work. Not many times I get to say that out loud to another man on streaming. All right, so we got our cherries in the glass. I went old school style with the Manhattan because I'm putting mine on the rocks. John's going Nick and Nora classic style, which I should have done tonight, but I got ahead of myself. And I'm doing my julep strainer again. Say that again, John.
Pour that over the cherry, yeah?
Right over the cherry. And again, now everybody's going to see just a little bit of that cherry juice still in their glass. And just watch it just stir into your cocktail as you're pouring it right over that whiskey cherry.
Yeah. Oh, my dad would be proud of this one.
Yeah, good. All right, so we're going to throw them cherry up there. Juice. Watch Bowser and Mario chase after these cocktails.
Oh, those glasses look great. Those spheres look great.
Shout out again. Oh, cheers, sir. Here, please. Shout out to Ama Evi. Thank you again for these spheres. Loriander, you couldn't be more correct. On the rocks, yeah. It is not, that's going to bring up a great story. Pacific Northwest Adventure. On the rocks is not terribly wrong. Just a little bit different for this particular cocktail. I've actually served it to a lot of guests who've requested it on the rocks. I wouldn't say the majority of guests, but still quite a lot. The funniest part, pattern principle, Prost. The funniest idea with it is, John, do you remember me telling you about the martini, the super, all my really classic drinker martini preferences?
Oh, from guests?
Mm-hmm. There's a funny story I don't know if I told you about.
No, what happened?
Very, old and frugal drinkers that usually made it through Prohibition, and so that portion of my guests are fading. But when I first started my career, I had a few people ask, and I never understood why, and then it kept going, and somebody finally told me. But people would ask for the ice. They wanted the ice that I stirred their martini in a glass on the side. And only, I had mainly old gentlemen would ask for this, but they wanted their martini ice. They knew we were just going to throw it out anyway. And finally, one day, I had one sitting at the bar who asked for that, as opposed to just sending it out to tables, and I couldn't actually interact with anybody. And he said, well, there's a lot of good booze still left on that ice, you know, and it's a great flavor. And my favorite part was he was exactly right. You could have it, and if you sipped it fast enough, you could really still enjoy that martini. This particular gentleman drank almost half or two thirds of his martini, and then poured the rest back into the ice, and that's how he enjoyed the second half of his. It's kind of like what we were talking about with this, right, John? Like we started with really, really strong and finished with a little bit more of a faded dessert style cocktail. He kind of did that. I think it was a pre-Prohibition pace, is what we're going to call it.
Pre-Prohibition pace. Yeah.
That's how he learned how to pace himself, right?
Yeah. That's not the same thing as a sidecar, like something served in a small vessel, but then there's a sidecar to refill the vessel, even though there's no ice in the drink. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's funny.
Not
as soon
sidecar
as
to
you said
cocktail,
that,
but
right? That's what I thought of. Right when you said it, I was like, wait, what? That you're right, Tarts. That can't be the craziest thing to come out of Prohibition. In fact, the craziest thing that came out of Prohibition so far in the last 2 weeks is the guys renovating their house that found 240 bottles of Old Fitzgerald from pre-Prohibition that a bootlegger built into the walls of their house.
Oh no!
Yeah, I was blown away too, which is funny because my father actually just told me that he found some Old Fitzgerald from the 70s that they were very excited to find. And part of them were opened in an old house that he was helping clean up. But these guys, this is pre-Prohibition. So this is, I think it was 1916 Old Fitzgerald bottles that were literally built into the walls of the house. They were wrapped and covered, and as these people were pulling off panels to try and put a new floor in, they found all these bottles. John, what would you do?
You mean it's not normal to hide booze in your walls?
Right.
I mean, I don't do that.
Right. No, of course not. But what would happen if you found almost 100 more than 100-year-old bottles of fantastic booze in your walls?
Yeah. When you told me that, I began to drool a little bit. Like when you have the opportunity to taste those rare whiskeys, that is a treat. I mean, I would drink it slowly.
Slowly.
I would appreciate it.
I know. I've been excited.
If I would put it up for auction or something?
Right. No, I was just more like, I think I'd shake for a little while and be very excited. Think about being able to sell a couple, but then also I couldn't wait before I even thought of that, I'd be like, I have to know what it tastes like. I'd at least get to try one bottle to know what pre-Prohibition era, and again, we've talked about that with absinthe on previous shows. It's not only the perception of quality because of the product, it's the idea that it was created in a time that was unregulated, partially, and things were just done completely differently than they were when it was repealed. And there were different government oversights from what I understand, and taxing and things like that. I'd just be curious to know what the proof is, how it oxidized, like kind of investing, do the scientific method on that particular part of it. Because I got to try some old fits from a few years, 10 years ago maybe, and I thought it was a really good, delicious product. So it'd be curious to see if it changed in heat or bathtub. Right, exactly. Pacific Northwest Adventure, that's exactly what John and I were talking about. Two of our streams ago, it happened to be based around the Green Fairy and how the hallucinations were never part of the wormwood or any particular product that was used in the actual absinthe. It had everything to do with the fact that it was bathtub made and usually 160%. So higher than Everclear or higher. So higher than Everclear, brain melting, essentially. Anything that high of alcohol is having a chemical reaction on your brain that has nothing to do with any other herbs that are in there. It's pure ethanol.
Brain melt percentage.
Right. Or just like we talked about, John, like tequila being one of our favorite spirits. What was the myth forever that tequila, because it was made of agave, was a stimulant as opposed to a depressant, like the rest of alcohols. But then we learned that anything that's ethanol or made of anything that's alcohol based is a depressant, no matter what you make it out of.
Right.
So what do you think about the Manhattan, John?
Oh man. Oh yeah. So we haven't even talked about that. It's great. In a way, it backs off the Manhattan I would make with just straight Cochi Vermouth di Torino, so the lighter on the sweet vermouth. But then you make up with extra spice from the peppercorns. I dig it.
I'm glad you like it. Now anybody out there, feel free to add some more of that Szechuan peppercorn bitters to it. It's my intention to gently nudge you out of your comfort zone, not give you a full-blown push. So if you can handle it, add a little bit more, try it out. Yes, and you are right. Loriander, thank you. Merlot showed up from Sweden during Prohibition, talking about it
Malort?
as being marketed. Say that again?
You're talking about Malort?
Oh, Malort. I'm sorry. I read that too fast. As a medicinal remedy, and that is the only reason bitters actually got through here in the States during Prohibition, was the idea that it was non-potable, which is also how I am able to create our bitters right now too. I'm not creating liqueurs or anything else for anybody. This is non-potable. You could drink this whole thing. I guess you'd get sick halfway through the bottle. However, it's an intense amount of flavoring agent to accentuate the flavors of the cocktails you're creating, accentuate the flavors of the spirit or non-alcoholics, whether that be non-alcoholic or alcoholic, getting the flavors there. I think of bitters as being like a adjunct vanilla extract, roughly the same amount of alcohol content. They are providing an intense amount of flavor in a few drops to allow you to create a different cocktail. My favorite idea is having 5 of the same drinks look exactly the same or nearly exactly the same, maybe garnishes different, and having them all have a unique flavor profile based around the bitters, mainly the bitters, than anything else. I think it'd be fun to change the spirits slightly, even if that meant Baijiu or Singani or different types of brandies and styles that are like that. But the idea that we can get an intense flavor, concentrated flavor to accentuate everything, yeah, that's pretty rad. Now, John, don't forget, even if we run out of time, when we get to the bottom of this cocktail, that cherry is our finish. So there's two things that I need everybody to keep in mind. If you were to eat a cherry directly out of whiskey cherries, it's going to overblow your palate, especially out of whiskey cherries. But the treat about a cherry at the bottom of your Manhattan is it is adding a depth of flavor to your cocktail, but it's also soaking up some of those lighter flavors. In this cocktail in particular, like John said, this is going to be a brighter version of Manhattan. Bree and I haven't have ours on the rocks, so that's going to open it up even more. But that cherry is softening and kind of the intensity is getting a lot lighter. It's diluting in its intensity. And so by the time you get to the bottom, it should be a nice spice level, a little bit of booze level, but a great finish for everybody to end their night. Are you going to eat yours?
I'm very careful with drinking too much on the stream, but I think I'm going to have to get to the end of this one.
Hell yeah. Now you have to so that we can taste it. Everybody should. Anybody who is following us locally who has a kit with them has a stem, and I made that on purpose. Grab that stem out. Make sure you can take a bite off of it. It wouldn't hurt to take it out and eat half of it before you finish your whole cocktail, because that's kind of going to get you partway there. Now, I heard Bree told me there was a Fernet comment. I don't know if I saw it. San Francisco allowed Fernet to be sold during Prohibition because of its medicinal benefits. No shit. I wonder if that's why the Fernet handshake, the bartender's handshake idea was created around Fernet. Because, I mean, San Francisco was and has always been a big driving force. Western states in California, as far as thanks to Jerry Thomas, have always pushed cocktailing to a whole nother level. Now that's spread. John, I'm watching things in Singapore that blow me away right now.
That's so funny. I have a friend bartending there too. Keep going.
Tell me more, because I'd love to try and bartend there. I tried to get my whole family to move there, but they wouldn't do it.
I mean, he shares, he reshares photos of news coverage, journalism coverage of his bar, and beautiful photos. I mean, beautiful settings.
Have you seen the Dragonfly bar so far?
No, I can look up where he works. No, go on.
If anyone sees the Dragonfly, the designer of that bar, shout out to them. They are amazing. The bar cocktails look incredible, but the idea that they tried to mimic Tiffany style glass in what they did, John, is they made upside down umbrellas with stained glass panels and dragonflies throughout, and then they light them from the top down, so everybody just sees these beautiful, almost ocean-like waves over the top of them as they sit at these incredible, like, mahogany bars. They're wait. Oh, I take that back. That one's I skipped it. That one's in Hong Kong, I think. I think I got excited and started thinking about Singapore and Hong Kong both at the same time, because for a hot minute I wasn't looking at Hong Kong bars, but they've been catching my eye lately. Whoa, thank you all of you for loving that whiskey cherry. It's nothing but love that goes into creating all these things. And again, I love making something that you can consume and brings you joy. Is literally, that's all I need my life to be about. John knows it. How many times you sat at the bar and I'm almost at tears because you're like giddy with something that we finally got right.
Right. Takes a few iterations, but it's so cool to see it come together. I like the process.
Me too. I think it always takes a few iterations because I never want to shoot down any idea either.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, I never want anybody who's ever worked for me or worked with me, I never want to shit on anybody's ideas. So if it comes up because I'm not 1,000% right, and if I don't try your cool ideas, how the hell it might be the perfect idea for this cocktail or the perfect thing that we need. Yeah. Uni Ebi. Oh, it is in Hong Kong. Thank you for checking, and it's incredible. Any of you been to the Jerry Thomas? No. Loriander,
Jerry
absolutely
Thomas
not.
Speakeasy Bar?
In Rome, apparently. I would love to go there. Yeah. Having part of my ancestry from Italy, I would love to know a little bit more about that. And honestly,
And the name Jerry Thomas being a historian of cocktails, right?
He's the person who brought the modern cocktail back into the fold again. I will say, prior to Prohibition, yes, he is the American maverick, and an inspiration for me in all his entirety. As I read Imbibe for the first time and heard that he was gregarious and fun, welcomed everyone to his bar, and I was like, I've already got it. I've already got that part of it. I just need to get all the rest of this shit down. I'm loud, and I really like everyone coming in to see us. So perfect. We're halfway there. Cocktails with mead, pattern principle. You are jumping the gun. That is awesome. John and I were going to talk about things that we could do, that we could try and come up with. Mead is interesting. I think that it is important to remember that you're going to get a nice tang with a honey accent on the whole thing. So think minerality. And I would try and stick with things that are a little bit more oaked or aged, if I were you. John, what do you think? What's your experience with mead?
I've only had it by itself. I wouldn't have thought of it for cocktails because it's so varied. So many of the ingredients that I like to use in cocktails, it's because they're consistent. I know what I'm going to get. Roughly every bottle of Maker's Mark is going to be the same as a Maker's Mark bottle even from 20 years ago. But mead, it comes in many different forms, like beer, right?
Right. Well, it's funny you said that, beer in particular, because I've had the adventure of a couple of fun beer cocktails. Let's see, I actually had a couple of regulars hook me up. Since we were talking about Prohibition era and pre-Prohibition era, cocktails on tap, I had some amazing guests give this to me a few years ago to use. It is a cocktail book that was produced in France, and the idea was this, that during Prohibition, there was no Prohibition in France, and they were experimenting and really pushing the limits with their beer cocktails. I actually have a cocktail that's based around an IPA that was gleamed from a friend of mine who gleamed it from another cocktail. And a friend of mine that I worked at Taste Bud, and she knows exactly who she is. A more refreshing, so it's an Amaro cocktail, John, with IPA to top it off. And Talia, if you're out there, I doubt you're watching, but you get all the credit for it. I never thought that I could have a beer cocktail that tasted so good and that I wanted to drink in the summertime with Amaro in it, John, and she hooked me up. So I'd say with mead, try something similar to that. Try something that you know you're going to slightly dilute, but it still complements the tanginess of the flavor. I'd say lemons. I'd say some whiskeys, and some rich things like Averna Amaro, and maybe even, oh my goodness, I'd say actually Chiacharo, Amaro Chiacharo with its orange.
I love Chicharo.
Yeah, you do.
Nice.
Which
just kind of cinnamon,
actually,
Amaro.
Yeah.
Just a hint of cinnamon.
And then a really, like, a good amount of orange on the back end of that, on the Chiacharo. And that tends to complement a lot of things. In fact, it's no joke, John, that I had a really hard time coming up with my Maker's Mark cocktail, because I have an Amaro Chiacharo cocktail with Maker's Mark that I really, really like, but we'll explore that later on down the line. I think that's going to be a better transition for spring cocktail for us to play with. And it is really like intriguingly a transition for spring. So you and I know we're going to be there, right, John?
We're gonna make it. Yeah.
Hell yeah. If everybody else can make it with us, please stay tuned, subscribe, and as soon as we get that option open, we're going to have some other things. Just start liking and following us as much as you can so we can start sharing as much as we want to be able to share with you. John and I have already nerded out about being able to share some of our R&D and prep times with you and doing them on camera when we're normally just doing them together. Christmas morning drinks. Eggnog specifically. Eggnog specifically, please, if you're going to make it, you need to start it tonight and give yourself, there is a Stanford study out there. In fact, the University of Stanford studied the entire, goddamn, I'm probably going to be wrong about Stanford. I hope I'm right. Made an entire study based around eggnog. Aged eggnog. Oh, you should be right. I believe 6 weeks is the perfect place for Pacific Northwest adventure. Please check out that study. It literally breaks down how particular bacteria change in the aging process. And you could start with an entire, your entire egg supply could start off contaminated with salmonella. And if you waited the perfect amount of time that they did this study, you will be safe by the end of that. I was blown away on how the aging process actually makes it safer letting eggs sit in room temperature longer than they do any other time, which is weird for us Americans. Loriander, I know you're used to getting your eggs at room temperature, but we have them really, really chilled here, and we have to keep them that way to keep the salmonella from being released from the shells.
Wait, so that much lead time for the batch of eggnog is 100% safe.
Yes.
If I make eggnog right now on this countertop, it's how percent safe? Only 50%?
Pretty much. I'd heard
75?
From what they said based on their brandy, the amount of brandy that they put in theirs. They said it was, I believe it was only 15% safe.
15? Like I'm gonna get violently ill if I make eggnog right now? Like
No,
better than a
here,
flip
John.
of a coin?
John, the only treat to that though is that if you're only on the off chance that your eggs are contaminated prior with salmonella, which none of us know if our eggs were.
We don't know.
contaminated with
Right? We
salmonella.
learned
Right.
about that in the news. There's on the daily news. Some eggs were recalled from local stores due to salmonella, but
Right.
that's only found out in hindsight.
You're 100% right, which is exactly why Stanford did this study. Stanford had the same scientist who had made eggnog for their team for 40 fucking years. And she had made it and nobody had gotten sick. So they were like, you know what? We need to know this. And they literally studied the eggnog that they had been drinking the whole time and wondered why nobody had gotten sick. And that's why they did it. Oh my God, almond nog.
So Billy, okay, I got to do the math on this. Okay, so now what's the percentage that my eggs are with salmonella?
Right, we'd have to turn to Bree and her statistician team to analyze for us, and I don't know if they have time to do that.
Basically, I just really want to make eggnog right now.
So you know what, John? I don't think we should do it. I think that here's why. Based on our cardamom bitters comment and our eggnog comment, I feel like this almost needs to be our next show. Because I actually have a quick nog recipe that is my own proprietary nerdy thing that I've come up with and came up with a few years ago. And And I thought, maybe I'm dumb wanting to do this, but a guy named Ryan McGarian, who is a really well-known local cocktail artist, he let me know that he thought it was cool too, and it was probably one of the more unique things he's come up with. So as I want to tell everybody about it, I feel like how perfect is that for our next show? 20% off or not, John? What do you think? Do you think it'd be worth it?
I'm feeling totally safe for a one-off eggnog. I like a one-off
Quick
eggnog, single serving
Quick
eggnog.
nog.
Quick nog. Yeah.
Quick nog. We gotta be sure it's gonna be a quick nog. There's gonna be a lot less. There's gonna be a little egg, but a good enough amount of booze that's gonna cure that egg, so that I am 95% sure that you will be fine. I feel like that's
I like
a good
those
risk.
odds.
Okay, cool. I was gonna say I feel like that's a good risk percentage for us to enjoy life.
95 times I go to the bar, or 100 times I go to the bar. 95 times I really enjoy the experience, except for the hangover in the morning. And then 5 times I'm violently ill all night and in the morning. Good odds.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that most of the other 4 times you were violently ill because you had too much fun at the bar the night before. And only one of those times was because of the quick nog.
Okay, and yeah, thank you, Tar, for calculating 0.005% chance salmonella, specifically salmonella. I
Thank
like
you.
these odds.
Right? Who the hell wouldn't take those odds? We have people trying for the lottery for way, way less odds. On a weekly basis.
Don't.
Pacific Northwest Adventure, yes. In fact, John and I haven't talked about this, but Bree and I were just talking about that in regards to our kids, and that as we need to teach them to protect themselves, they're going to live a very boring life if they don't take at least a little bit of risk as we go along. Is why, yeah, maybe. I'm with you on that one. Maybe we go back to Bree getting 90 or 80% of the cocktails from now on. John and Bree.
Thank you, P&W.
John and Bree stay much more composed than I do.
Oh my gosh, that is right, Alex. Someone's successfully spelled Arnold Schwarzenegger's last name.
Oh my God! Don't ever apologize.
I think that deserves a cherry.
Right? Anybody who hasn't tried their cherry, let's try their cherry. And let's be honest, these 2 drinks were not what got me there. Mm. Ooh. And I'm
curious, what did get you there, Billy?
I think our pre-gaming of tequila might have got us there a little bit sooner. That, and I was actually testing products most of the day to come up with some new things for everybody.
It's been a day.
John,
Chemistry day.
Mm-hmm. You heard about some of
well
it,
done. Huh? I heard some of it. Well done on the cherries, by the way. Yeah, that is. I mean, I have my store-bought cherries just in case, but you in the kit you gave me one of your own whiskey cherries. Wow, it's so dry and herbal. I think someone said cloves in the chat. Yeah, wow.
Oddly enough, there's not any cloves in it, but between the star anise, the cinnamon, and then the last but not least, we used dark cherries for this one. So this was the first batch of dark sweet cherries that I did, and normally I do tart cherries with more sugar, but I eliminated all the sugar and only went straight for the dark cherries because I knew they had enough sugar already built into them that I wanted them to last. Also, when I made these, I didn't know where we were going to be in another 6 months. So I thought these cherries might have to last us the next 2 years. And we slowly have Manhattans every like 4 months.
Oh my gosh, a slow drip of Manhattans. What would I do?
So Lucif, you're our second New Year's Eve cocktail question. And I'd say, let's see, Lucif never had anything but champagne and Prosecco. So let's take that to a whole nerdy new level. Champagne and Prosecco, I feel like are celebratory for so many people. So maybe what could we do that? Oh my God, they literally are apocalypse cherries. Who knows? Like, I was like, hey, I get while the getting's good, and what can I get to last in my basement for the next 2 months or 2 years? Oh my God, well done. Well done, Nukem. I'd say for New Year's Eve, let's think of a couple things that are accessible for everybody. I'd say a little bit of citrus is great. You can definitely get bubbles around, and I wouldn't spend too much on your bubbles, especially if we can create some flavors that you can work with. I'd say honey is a great medium. Gin, honey, gin, lemon, gin or vodka with lemon, and a little bit of bitters, in fact, is going to get you there. And if you're going to go bitters, more than the bittering agents, go for floral and aromatic things. If you can get a gin with a little more flavor to it, you're going to want to expand on the flavor of the sparkling wine, or the Prosecco or Champagne, which are all going to be bright and sharp. So you're going to want to add, in my mind, you're going to want to add a depth to contrast those flavors. I'm a huge fan of hibiscus syrup. I think that goes really well with the tart tanginess of Prosecco in particular. The oakiness of Champagne, they contrast a little bit more. So I would shoot for things like that. And in fact, even if you can find yourself some lavender bitters, a little bit of lemon juice, and honey, Prosecco on top, you're done. Give it a little bit of a stir. You can do it over ice or not. For New York, what did I miss for tarts on that one? What was specific for New York?
New Year's Eve.
Oh, that's it.
French 75s.
Yeah,
Tarts.
that's perfect. Essentially, champagne
That's what I would
with
drink.
cardamom bitters. You could do that. Save that cardamom bitters. Please hold Pacific Northwest Adventure. Hang on to your cardamom bitters for a hot minute. John and I think, just decided that we're going to try and do a quick nog for the new year. It is not going to be mutually exclusive remember, for John and I, we have 2.5 to 3 more months of winter. So we're not done just because January 1st hits. So let's do another round of nice winter-inspired cocktails, and that quick nog I think will be great for our first show of 2021. What do you think, John?
Yes.
I'm so sorry I asked you a question right when you were taking a drink.
Would you? Yes. Would it be that and another drink?
Of course. I don't think we can do a show
Or
without
two
having
nogs.
2 drinks. No,
Or two
I think
nogs.
we should do. How about we do 2 drinks with? Would it be too much to do 2 drinks with cardamom?
I have a question. So earlier in the chat we were talking about mojitos and okay, maybe not the winteriest of drinks, although I could drink them all year. But maybe more hot drinks. Someone mentioned Irish coffees.
I got okay.
Hot drink, cold drink, because eggnog is cold, right?
Yeah, eggnog
Especially a quick
needs to be-
nog.
especially a quick nog. Well, like we talked about, we need to keep it cold. I love, Lorianda, that you're working with some hibiscus syrup. We're going to work with that actually coming up in my transition to spring. Before even we get to those whiskey cocktails that John and I were talking about prior in the show, we'll talk a little bit more about a great transition with hibiscus, and we'll work with that more moving forward. So don't worry. For the meantime, freeze the rest of your hibiscus syrup. For anyone who follows us out there, if you are more than a week past with any of your syrups, throw them in the freezer in a safe container, so that you can pull them out when you need them, and we can play with them. John and I are trying our best to post at least a week ahead of time on Twitch, if not 2 weeks. Hopefully we can get to it on our website and on Twitch so that you can be ready for it. And then just literally all you need to do is to defrost those syrups a day or two ahead of time, and we'll be ready to go. And then that way you don't feel like there is a limited amount of space for that syrup you worked really, really hard to create. Hot tot. Oh, I love Luciv. Thank you so much for enjoying that hot toddy that we were working on. Jerry Thomas, not Jerry Thomas, Tom and Jerry. I'm kind of a nerd about. My father-in-law for years had a recipe that he gave me that he was trying to get me to put into one of the bar programs that I was running, and none of them fit. So I don't know, John. What do you think? Would you be down with a Jerry Thomas, or did you have a Tom and Jerry, or did you
Tom and Jerry?
have something else in mind?
It just seems like wintry hot drinks and then wintry cold drinks, like the eggnog, which I think we've overwhelmingly established. So, yeah,
right.
That sounds good.
Well, it's funny because we could do a take on a Moroccan coffee, but I feel like now I kind of want to do the Tom and Jerry, or hot butter rum, which I feel like Tom and Jerry is pretty darn close to hot butter rum. Oh my gosh, Loriander, that's awesome. I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's Thirsty Therapy is our Discord.
We don't have a public Discord. Yeah, I just saw that question. Loriander is the first to ask for a public Discord.
I love it. Is that our first didn't we do public when we did our Discord when you and I first started this?
Well, we need an invite code.
Oh, that's what it
is. Are we ready? Is it clean enough to open up to the world? I mean, I'm really curious what Loriander has to share with us.
Yeah, Loriander, tell us.
We'll DM you.
Yeah, that's perfect. And in fact, Loriander, you have been a great addition to our regulars, and we really appreciate you. You've also helped us try and step up our game that much faster than we even anticipated. So we're working on trying to get all of our bells and whistles working so that we can actually bring you more. The fact that you're willing to donate and tip us is incredible and is the best inspiration for us for right now. We'll work on getting there so that you can help us out. Don't worry, that's only when I shake just the right way that we get our OnlyFans.
And compliment another man on their finger technique.
Well, right. There are some things OnlyFans will pay for, so. But we'll definitely DM you. We'll try and figure out a way that we can, the way that we can talk to you about it, and take a look at everything you have. We want to make these things accessible to everybody that's out there.
Oh, Bree Savage, the banana fingers.
Oh my God, thank you for that one. John knows that story all too well. Oh wait,
I'll spoil it. I hope we all get to meet in person soon again, and y'all can shake Billy's hands as he works behind the bar. Shaking Billy's hands is a unique experience.
That's what they say, huh, John? Like grabbing a fistful of bananas.
So eloquent.
Oh my god. Thank you, Pacific Northwest Adventure. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you guys for all joining in. We've had a great time having you. We'll have new cocktails coming up for you in the new year. 2021 is going to bring some new things for all of us, and we're going to be here for us to connect. So, John, what more? What do we send everybody off with for 2021?
Their third cocktail. Their nightcap.
I got it. Wait, actually, what kind of herbal liqueurs? Lucif, what kind of herbal liqueurs are you working with? Wait, can we get that in a
Good
cocktail?
answers.
I finally have my career back if that's the case. I can squirt in everybody's drinks from now on. That'd be amazing. Only what you gave
gosh,
me.
what
All
is-
right, so here's what we're going to do. And a New York Eve special. Okay, or a New Year's Eve special. All right. So the New Year's Eve special is... Oh, wait, we should have one? John, what are we going to do? Do you want to have a New Year's Eve special? I feel like we'd have to do it hours ahead of time.
Well, that's fine. We can
Oh
do
my
it our
God.
regular time. At least, but for the West Coasters, yeah,
Right.
Pacific Coast.
Well, John and I will talk about that. We'll see what we can bring everybody. And we will post it. So not only will it be on the website, but it'll be on the Twitch, on our Twitch account. All right, so here's what I'm thinking, Lisa. I want you to grab that maple syrup that we had last week that I'm pretty sure you still have, and use your Szechuan walnut bitters. Along with the darker, actually, if you still have the Elijah Craig, go ahead and grab that right now. And I do 1.5 ounces of that. 1/4 ounce of your Benedictine. The Szechuan peppercorn bitters, you're going to go 15 full ounces. And I want you to grab a lemon peel. Remember, you still have your, you're going to go 1/4 ounce of your maple syrup. It's undiluted. If it's diluted, go ahead and bump it up to 1/2 ounce. Remember, you're going to do lemon oil to finish off. And that should get you exactly where you need to be. If it needs a little bit more spice for the next level, add 1 dash of Angostura, but no more Benedictine, and a few more drops of the Szechuan walnut bitters. John, you and I, we have a beer to test for our Advent Christmas, right? John and I, our third cocktail is a beer that we're tasting together.
Yeah, that's the kind of proper bartender drink. Like after post shift drink is, oh gosh, I've been making cocktails all day. The last thing I want is to make another cocktail. Just give me a beer.
Right. And we would normally do your hometown favorite.
Oh yes, our local. Well, it's Rainier, a bartender classic, just at least around here. But PBR works as well. That's more nationally available.
Right. PBR is much more nationally available. Different malt blend. Definitely not as same hops level that John and I are getting. We both appreciate a little bit of a heavier flavor profile on there. However, my dad thinks it went bad as a beer. He likes Bud Light and PBR much better than John and my preferred Rainier. However, it seems that instead of tonight, do you even remember where are we at now tonight, John? Where are we moving to? Do you remember?
Oh, what's the next beer in our Advent calendar?
For Advent? Do you have it close enough?
I haven't looked ahead.
Shit, me
I
either.
leave it a surprise.
All right.
Game time audible.
As it should be.
Mrs. Claus, I wish it was elephant beer. That would be such a treat right now.
Right? Please, anybody.
Apologies to Loriander. I know you're not a fan. I like my dad's favorite beer.
Good memory, John. Good memory for Loriander. Yeah, if Elephant wants to send John and I a beer, we would love it. We'd happily drink it on our stream because it is kind of near and dear to our hearts as far as a gateway drug into heavier beers go, and his dad's favorite.
Well, I'll have to check out Fremont though.
Yeah. Okay, PBR gin sounds hella suspicious. Wait, PBR makes a gin? What's it taste like? Failed dreams and malt liquor? I'm just kidding.
College hangovers.
Right? Mommy, it tastes like burning? What where are we right now? If nothing else, no Rainier. A fun little treat of ours has been Bekarovka.
What's that treat? What is that?
Bekarovka, I believe it is a Czech liqueur, a very highly spiced liqueur. Bree and I have been sharing, mixed with a little bit of that, the Amaro Chiacharo that we were talking about, and a high proof bourbon. I don't know why it tends to be one of my favorite. If I don't have Underberg around, it tends to be one of my favorite digestifs. But it's just a little pieced together by me more than anything. At Hollywood Beverage. No Rainier at Hollywood Beverage.
That's where I had no Hennessy. Hollywood Beverage.
No way. They're coming up short on several ends, right? Come on, get it together, Hollywood. We love you, but get your shit together.
No, that place is awesome. That's by far the biggest selection in our private or government-run liquor state.
Right, and that is there is the linchpin in everything that John and I do. We are only allowed to work with not on our stream, but we do our product. No, I mean Rainier Gin is at Hollywood. What? It's not Ransom Gin? Are you sure it's not Ransom Gin? Rainier Gin.
Are you sure it's not Rancid Gin?
Rancid. I don't know about Rancid either. I know about Ransom. Is that the one made? Is Rancid made with ants?
And Rainier.
And Rainier. No, there is a gin
Ants
called
and
60. There's a gin out there called 99 Ants, I believe, and it has because there is a specific chemical makeup for ants. They've used it in the flavoring their gin. That chemical makeup, why we all have them in our house in the Pacific Northwest, happens to have to do with the antimicrobial and antibacterials in their skin. With a fancy R. Oh my God, we got to check it out. All right.
Bless the fancy R.
Right? Pacific Northwest Adventure, we are trying that out. We will be testing it and getting back to you about that on our next stream.
Oh, Billy, you got so far away. What happened to your AirPods? It's like it's like a symbol, like where it's almost time to wrap up. Hello?
I'm out. Can you get me onto built-in mic?
You are on the built-in mic.
Perfect. Built-in mic is all we have left.
That seems like a signal.
God is telling us it's time. Just kidding. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us. John, man, I can't wait till we get to do this again. I'll see you soon, okay?
Yeah, we'll keep everybody updated on the schedule. Follow